All right. You are back at the monastery. Iskra, who was very pleased to have been sent on your last mission, was less pleased to find that it had been decided in your absence that the order would set up a basic school for any children at the monastery. She and Carlo have been informed that on days they aren't occupied with order business, they will have 2 hours of lessons in the morning. Carlo has been working on telling the truth so that communication with him is easier, so you're not quite sure how he feels about the situation. But Iskra's overdramatic howls make her thoughts on the matter very clear.
James will be in the courtyard sparring with him, training them.
Piper will be in the library.
Piper, sitting in the library, a member of the church is going to come by and inform you that Hatta was looking for you.
And he will jump up and bow, and he will begin to make his way to the basement, I guess.
So Hatta is in a small room in the cellar he has claimed as his workshop. When he sees you, he jumps to his feet in panic and pulls a watch out of his pocket. You are early, about a month, by my watch, or no? Wait. He pulls a second watch from the same pocket and frowns at it. No, by this watch you're late. That won't do either. He pulls several more watches from various pockets and tosses them on the table in front of him, eventually triumphantly holding one above his head. There, perfectly on time. Now, what did you want again?
I was told that you had something for me.
Ah, yes, of course. Now, what was that?
My flute.
Oh, yes.
Or
yes,
instrument, if you prefer.
And he jumps back up to his feet and heads over to a corner of the room where you can see the 2 automata that he had back in the basement of Wonder are standing and appear to have been repurposed to serve as coat and hat racks. And leaning against one of them is what looks like a long roll of cloth, and he will pick it up and walk over and hand it to you, and you can feel that rolled up inside the cloth is the object that you requested.
Much obliged to you, Mr. Hatter.
Yes, of course. I must say it was very, very interesting. Very interesting. Most of the time people are asking me to make things that are not very interesting, but that it didn't really make much sense, and so it was very enjoyable.
I thought you might appreciate the issues surrounding it.
Yes, indeed. Now, what was it you needed?
A sword. A cane. A flute.
And he blinks at you and says, yes, I suppose I could get to work on that.
Piper will open the rolled up cloth.
Oh, what's that?
I am hoping it is what you were meant to have been working on.
He blinks at you again. Yes, of course. I believe it should be to your specification, yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
You are most welcome, of course.
We really need to work on your time displacement one day.
Time, yes, I am very good friends with time, for the most part.
It's not in a very linear fashion.
No, you see, ever since we had a disagreement one day, time doesn't always do what I wish.
I think that makes perfect sense.
He nods solemnly and begins collecting his various watches and stowing them back in different pockets.
I shall return when I have completed my task.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, yes, if you have anything else that is interesting, I would happily make it, as opposed to everything else that people want
Of
me to
course.
make. And he goes back to his table, where he appears to have been working on various blueprints. It does not look to be a very organized workspace. However, from what you understand, he has been of help in creating things that make daily life at the monastery easier, although he doesn't seem to find it as rewarding as your strange sword flute cane.
Yes.
And he is absorbed in his work, and you get the feeling he no longer acknowledges your presence.
And Piper will return to the library.
After a little while, all of you will be informed by various people who live or work there that your presence is required in the office of Father Mateo.
James will head over.
He will head over.
As will Baba Yaga.
And when you enter his office, you see him sitting behind his desk, holding what looks to be a letter with his brow furrowed in some concern. Thank you for coming. Please have a seat. And he gestures to some chairs. I realize it is not that long since your last excursion. However, I have 2 tasks for you if you will agree to take them on.
And they are.
And he looks to the letter and looks to Baba Yaga and says, one of the tasks concerns an item which you came into possession of during your last mission. Do you still possess this conch shell?
And Baba Yaga will remove it from her pack.
Have any of you before been to the Order's treasury?
Would I be in trouble if I said yes?
No, I would simply be impressed if you had been there and back without having specifically been sent. I did not recall if we had ever sent you there before. I take that as a no?
I will say no.
As you may or may not be aware, we do not keep such items here. We have our treasury somewhere more defendable, as it is full of various magical items. It needs to be secure. And it is, shall we say, the rule that if you come across such items during your travels, you are not able to keep them necessarily. They must at least at first be brought to the treasury to be inspected, cataloged, and then the normal method of doing things would be if you need any such items, you may borrow them. So,
I see.
this item needs to be brought to the treasury, and it just so happens there is something there I think you would be able to make use of in the second task, which would be investigating a certain matter in Paris. He frowns and looks back at the letter. We have received a request directly from a member of the church. A Father Adrian from Paris has written to us about a series of fires that have been set in the city's slums, and some concerning rumors surrounding them. I fear the matter was overlooked too long, as at first many assumed the fires were the work of radicals opposing the monarchy. However, that became less likely as victim after victim were found to be the city's very poorest who take shelter in Paris's catacombs. That and the rumors that Father Adrian wrote about have convinced the Order it is best to investigate.
I see.
And do we have any witnesses to these fires?
People have reported hearing children laughing and catching glimpses from the corner of their eyes of strange, dark presences. The fires themselves appear to only occur when the victim is alone. So I suppose there are no witnesses to the actual fires themselves.
And do the fires travel? Say it happens in an old building. Does the building catch on fire?
The fires have occurred in the catacombs of Paris. The catacombs themselves have not burned down. It has been individuals who have caught fire.
Intriguing. I would gladly take this case.
And he looks to the other two to see if they are in agreement with Baba Yaga.
I accept.
It will be done.
Very good. Do any of you have any questions about either your journey to the treasury or Paris?
No, I do not think so.
Well, whether you have been to the treasury or not, I would offer a word of advice. Do not show any particular attachment to the items you bring or borrow, if you wish to stay on the good side of its guardian.
And it is mandatory that we return this item.
Yes.
It felt as though it was a gift from a friend, I suppose.
It is not to say that you will never retrieve it. There are circumstances wherein magical items are given permanently to hunters. It simply depends upon the scenario. And first, as I said, it must be catalogued and investigated. The keeper of the treasury will need to make note of its properties, shall we say. I can do my best to put in a good word for you if you wish to make a claim to it. However, as I said, I would not show a particular attachment to the item if you are dealing with the treasury's guardian. She can be quite possessive.
I see. And where is the treasury? Have you provided a map for us? Or directions?
I shall certainly provide you directions. It is in Transylvania.
That's quite a ways from France.
And both are quite a ways from where you stand now. I understand the distance is great, however, travel is a necessary part of what we do. Did I not feel that there is something in the treasury now that would aid you in Paris, I would have someone else deliver the shell to the treasury. However, I feel there is an item you could make use of.
And what is that item?
I shall leave that to the keeper of the place to explain. He will do a better job. And if you
Very
come
well.
in knowing too much about it, the guardian may fear you covet it.
Well, as long as the Guardian already knows what item we need. Does anyone else have questions?
No, not at this time.
Very well. Then I wish you luck and Godspeed. And he folds the letter up and files it away.
And Piper will get up.
Oh, one more thing. If you see her, could one of you perhaps try and put in a word to Iskra that school is not murder?
I'll do my best.
She's under that impression, is she?
Shall we say she is a very reluctant pupil? And does anyone have anything else they wish to do before you leave?
Nope.
I do not. I think that's everything for me.
Then you may make your way, and as always, transportation is provided. arrive and find that the building you have been directed to is a church. But unlike many you have seen, it is a fortified one that looks like it would be easy to defend in a time of war. You are shown through a series of secret rooms into a large underground chamber. The walls, from floor to ceiling, look to be covered in small, locked vaults. In the center of the room is a desk at which sits a short, scruffy man.
Hello. We are here to deliver a magical item.
Yes, Mateo said you might be coming. Pop it on the desk, I'll have a look. And he does not get up.
So she reaches into her bag and she puts the conch onto the desk, kind of gingerly.
And he looks at it with a great deal of interest. And he touches it, and he pulls out a magnifying glass and inspects it closer, and he says, "Ah, tied to the ocean and to the Fae. What, you play it to activate it?"
I have been led to believe that when activated, it will summon a friend that we made on our previous journey.
And he nods and begins making notes. For a couple minutes, he sits in silence, scribbling away on some paper, and you get the sense he is not paying any attention to you. But once he is finished, he looks up and he observes the three of you closely, and you get the sense that he is performing almost the same inspection that he was on the magical item to the three of you. And if anyone wishes for him to not discover anything about you, you may make a defense check. Otherwise, he's observing.
Yaga will make a defense check.
Okay, you need a 5.
Okay. That is a failure.
And after a moment of observing the three of you, he doesn't say anything. He just sort of nods to himself as though he's figured something out. And then he will say, "Mateo told me you might be coming. I'm Hanson, but most people call me the swineherd.
Why?
It's a long story. This is only half of why you're here, correct?"
Correct.
I need to call someone else to obtain your item. I would ask that you try to refrain from any mention of keeping it for yourself. And he lets out a sort of tight-lipped grin. And then he calls down a dark hallway. A tall, thin woman strides out into the light. You notice the light glinting off of her spindly arms and legs and realize they are mechanical. She frowns upon seeing you.
And Piper starts to circle her. Doesn't touch her, but goes around and around examining. He's looking, and he'll stop and he'll look at some part of her that catches his attention, and then he continues. Doesn't say anything. He's just taking everything in.
And only her arms and legs are mechanical. The rest is flesh and blood, although appears somewhat scarred.
Don't be rude, Piper.
Are you Joan of Arc?
Her frown slips for a minute as she seems unclear of what to say, and she looks to Hanson, who says, "This is Karen. She guards the place. Sort of. Karen, I need you to get something." And she frowns again and says, "Hanson, must we? Truly, you wish to send these treasures out into the world in the hands of such unworthy individuals?"
Oh, I agree. The child has much to learn.
Hey, what makes me unworthy? And she puts her hands on her hips.
Karen grimaces and says, I am the only one who can properly appreciate these beautiful things, and I wish all of you would not insist on coming and taking them away from me.
Why?
Because they're where they need to be, with me, where I can protect them.
Why? Doesn't that seem a little possessive?
Yes. That's the point. And she looks as though she's going to protest farther when Hanson says, Karen, they brought something too. And she suddenly notices the conch shell sitting on the desk, and her expression lights up, and she quickly strides over to it and begins inspecting it from all angles with a wide grin on her face. And Hanson has to get her attention back from the shell you brought and says, Karen, I told you I need something. It's fourth down on the top row. Can you? And she reluctantly tears herself away from admiring the conch and does something slightly unexpected, at least I assume unexpected. She walks towards the wall and then continues walking straight up it. And once she has reached the very top row of vaults, she opens the indicated door, pulls out a small pouch, closes the vault again, and returns to the desk. She seems unwilling, however, to let go of the item she has retrieved.
Magnetism?
I don't think so, Piper.
Hanson, must they really take it? And Hanson looks at her and says, Karen, it's an order from the church. Hand it over. She looks as though she's trying to decide which of the three of you would be the least likely to destroy one of her precious objects, and she's looking back and forth between all of you. Is anyone going to try and take it?
No.
And seeing as Captain Hook looks perhaps the least interested, she decides he's the least likely to try and keep it for himself, and she will hand to him a small velvet bag. Here, I suppose. Hanson, you do know that if they use this one, they will deplete it. It will be gone. And he sighs and looks at her and says, I can make more, Karen.
James will keep it tucked.
All right, and seeing as you haven't looked into it, Hanson is going to address the three of you and say, that's graveyard dust. Mateo seems to think you could have some use for it. If you run into anything that, well, let's put it into layman's terms. If you run into anything that you can't hit with your fists or a sword, throw some of that on it and it should help.
What if you put some of that on a sword?
Wouldn't do anything. I was trying to not be technical. Look, it is bone and dust from a graveyard. Throwing it onto a spirit binds them to the physical realm for a short period of time, thereby allowing you to damage them by physical means. Throwing it onto a physical object will do nothing. You should be able to... Well, provided you're not trying to cover anything the size of a house, I'd say you could get 5 uses out of that bag. And like I told Karen, I can make more, but it'll take some time, so I can't give you any more before you leave.
We will try not to use it up before we leave.
And he frowns now. And he turns to Baba Yaga, who's the one that put the conch on the desk, and says, Thank you for bringing this. I will study it a little more. For now, we shall keep it here. Well then, was there anything else you needed?
Not to my knowledge.
And he goes back to scribbling some notes at his desk, and Karen stands there with her mechanical arms crossed, glaring at the lot of you. I tell you to be careful, but the quicker you die, the quicker any items you hold come back to me, so... And seeing as how there's nothing she can do to take back a small pouch of dust and nothing else she really has to say, she will walk back away into the darkness.
James will start to leave.
And as you turn to walk away, Hanson says, don't mind her, really. She's always like that. Don't get me wrong, she would kill you to take something back if she could, but it's nothing personal.
I'll try not to take it that way.
And he goes back to his notes. Now, was there anything else?
No.
Fine. Give my regards to Matea if you live. I don't know what you're going to go do.
Annoy people. We're very good at it.
And he waves you back to the doorway you entered through.
And Piper, glad that Hanson remembers where the door is, gladly
He's not
leaves.
Hatter. And unless anyone has anything they wish to do, you will continue traveling until you reach your next destination.
I do not.
Your carriage pulls into the biggest city you have been in, if not personally, as a group, and continues until it stops in front of a church. Saint Pierre de Montmartre is a small church compared to others you saw on your way through the city, but it is very old. Father Adrian, who is waiting for you at the door, is in contrast quite young, but wrinkles caused by worry are beginning to show on his face. His eyes are swollen, and the dark circles beneath them, as well as his unsteady walk as he leads you inside, suggest he is exhausted. You are here about the spirit haunting the catacombs, no?
Allegedly.
What makes you think it's a spirit?
I do not know what else it could be. He will lead you all into a small room with chairs, and he looks perhaps more as though he needs to sit than that he thinks you might, but he is going to sink into a chair and gesture that you may as well. I am the one that requested the Order's help in this matter. If you have any questions, please ask them.
Why?
Why what?
Not why would we ask questions. I'm aware of why we would ask questions. Why did you ask for the Order's help?
Because I did not know who else to turn to. Many beggars have been found burned alive in the catacombs beneath the city, and the rich could not care less. I have always tried to care for the city's poor as best I can, and I felt a need to do something.
And something you have done, but Why do you think it is a spirit? Like Yaga asked, why is this spirit burning people? Why is it in the catacombs? How long has this been going on for?
Difficult to say when it began. At the beginning, the fires were put down to radicals in the city. It wasn't until there had been multiple that they began to be linked. I have served here for a little over a year. Perhaps over the past month, we have had this issue. It only occurs at night. And only... well... those who have been targeted but survived have always been alone. And first have heard what sounds as though it is children laughing, although no one is present. Then they hear whispering in the shadows.
Why at night? If it's in the catacombs, there is no day or night that is obvious.
I could not say. That is why I requested help. I am by no means an expert in hauntings or such issues.
Are we able to speak with the survivors?
It is possible. I do not know how familiar you are with the catacombs of Paris. They are large and winding, and those who seek refuge there have nowhere else to go. The ones who feel they have been targeted and yet live, I cannot say that I know their whereabouts. They may be in the catacombs, they may not be, they may have died since.
Why were they targeted? The poor, the destitute, the downtrodden.
I do not know.
In our experience, spirits have been incredibly targeted. They have a sunlight focus, narrow as a beam of light, for its enemies and for its reasoning. Very rarely did they just lash out at anyone that was near it.
I could not say. And he frowns and says, I do not have as much information as I am sure you would like. There are 2 avenues I would suggest pursuing. One would be the catacombs themselves. If you wish to speak to anyone with more experience about, well, the whispers, about finding those who have burned, you could find people in the catacombs. The second is, there is an Italian doctor who has moved into the city's cemetery. He is rather famous. Some people, well, I'm sure there are rumors, but some say he can speak with the dead. He was hired by the cemetery manager to investigate strange noises coming from the mass graves, and there are whispers among those in the city that the 2 may be connected in some way.
It does strike me that once someone has decided to reside in the cemetery, they are somewhat beyond the aid of a doctor. Unless he is just speeding up the process.
He is a medical doctor. However, he is famed for his work on investigating corpses. He got his start during the plague. And, well, famous for some rather unorthodox experiments, shall we say.
How odd. And what do you know of these catacombs, Yaga? You said that you have been to Paris before. I have not.
The catacombs are a maze. They
Yes,
run.
thank you. He said that. Are you going to tell me also that they are located underground and that they have no natural light? Excellent work. Thank you.
They are located underneath the entirety of the city, and they have no natural light.
I'm so glad I brought you.
There's also skulls.
The catacombs are indeed maze-like. I have taken the liberty of obtaining a guide for you if you will deal with him.
What ails him? We've not had anyone normal yet.
Poverty, I suppose. He is a resident.
Ah, a resident.
My
And what is the
suggestion...
purpose of the catacombs?
To bury dead people.
Is that not what a cemetery is for? Why are they a maze underneath the city? This seems rather haphazard.
Catacombs were certainly never meant for people to reside in. However, the poorest of the city with nowhere else to go have taken up residence there, as at least it puts a roof over their heads to keep out the rain. I recommend a guide not only because it is easy to get lost, but also because it is the home not only of the desperate with nowhere else to go, but also some unsavory individuals who appreciate a dark and quiet space in which to conduct less than legal dealings.
And what is the name of our residing resident?
Bruno.
Bruno.
Bruno. He will meet you there. Whether you wish to go to the catacombs or speak with the doctor in the cemetery, I have not much more guidance to give you than that those are the places I would look myself. I would go investigate before it gets dark.
Hook? Thoughts? Piper goes over and leans towards Hook.
Well, I do not think the journey in the catacombs is going to be easy. Thankfully, we have the guide.
And which do you think we should do first? Talk to the Doctor of the Dead? Or examine the catacombs?
I think the catacombs first.
Yaga?
I was thinking the doctor. My reasoning is that we are potentially more likely to encounter the so-called spirits in the catacombs, and it would be best to have as much information as possible before going in there.
Right. He takes out a coin and flips it. Heads! The Doctor. Tails! The catacomb. The catacomb. We need the guide. The residing resident.
He shall meet you there. And Father Adrian looks to Baba Yaga to see if she's going to protest, since she was the one who said she wanted to go to the cemetery.
She's not making eye contact with anyone. She's just kind of pouting quietly.
Very well, then I shall show you to the closest entrance to the catacombs.
Very good.
Adrian will lead you out of the church. And eventually to a door that will lead you down into the ground. He will not follow you down. He will stay above ground. But he will wait to ensure you make it down the steps safely before he turns and walks away.
What an incredible smell you've discovered.
You have entered into a series of tunnels and chambers that seem to go on forever, and you think it would be very easy to get lost. Those with nowhere else to go congregate here, and many ragged figures huddle along the walls. You feel worried eyes upon you. A boy with ragged clothes and a dirt-streaked face suddenly appears in front of you.
Are you Bruno?
Yeah, you're the ones from the church then.
That's correct.
Adrian said to show you around, and I will, but that's 2 sous. Hey? And he holds out his hand.
Paper, you have a coin.
Why is it too soon?
2 sous. He looks at you like you're crazy. Money, hey? Coins.
Ah. And Piper gives him coin.
He looks at it, and I assume it's not a sou. But he will shrug and pocket it in the end and say,
But it will not be a bottle cap or something like that. It will be a
a small piece of wood.
yes. It will be a proper coin of some place.
He'll shrug and pocket it and say, guess it'll have to do. So, the good father says you want to have a look around. So, where do you want to go?
I assume you've heard about the fire incidents down here.
Of course I know. They all know too. That's why everyone looks so scared.
Can you take us to the survivors of the incident?
Well, what you mean, survivors of the incident? There's not been any survivors of the incident, because for anyone there's been an incident for, they're a pile of ashes. Get it?
Adrian said there were individuals.
Oh, yeah, there's some that think they were gonna get burned up and didn't. But how are you supposed to prove a ghost was gonna burn you up, huh?
Well, that is why we are here.
What, to prove a ghost was gonna burn them up?
know
I can
it's
take
valid
you to some
point.
people that think they were in danger in the dark. Yeah, I can do that. Or he starts listing things. I can show you where the bodies are burned. There's still piles of ashes. I tried taking people around to them, thought, sometimes people, if something's scary, it interests them. I thought maybe I could make a bit of money, showing off where the people burned. No one's really interested. But I can take you there. Or I can take you to the place where most people sleep. Or there's the Raven's hideout, but I don't know that you'd want to go there. And I'm not taking you to the Hall of the Spirits, because no one goes there unless they've lost their mind.
The Ravens' hideout. Are the Ravens a gang down here?
Yeah? They got a pretty big territory down here.
We will keep out of their way. Let's go to the scene of the crime. The first one.
The
Or the
first
closest.
one? Yeah, I can take you to the first one. That was a while ago. And he turns and darts off down a different corridor before you even have a chance to follow. Then he remembers that you're not as familiar with the area as he is, and he quickly comes back and says, "We'll keep up then." And a little more slowly begins walking back down the corridor.
Piper follows.
James will also
As does
follow.
Baba Yaga.
You reach a section of the catacombs that is largely empty. On your way there, you thought you maybe spotted 1 or 2 patches of ash, but before you is a definite ash pile that Bruno has indicated was the first victim. Right there, it's a pile of ashes.
Baba Yaga will bend down and pick up some of the ashes and rub them between her fingers.
And as she touches the ash pile, she feels something solid underneath a layer of ash.
she will grab it. If she can.
She can.
Unless it's the ground.
No. And out of the ash pile, she pulls a single unburned candle.
She will hold it up and show it to Piper. What do you make of this?
And he goes over. He doesn't touch it, but he does examine it.
Bruno's frowning at it. Well, it's not strange that that's there, really, but it should have burned, shouldn't it?
You've seen this before?
Well, not like that candle in particular, no, but that, and he gestures to the pile of ashes, that was Yvonne.
Yvonne.
Yvonne, she was the first one who burned up.
You require a catalyst when you cast a spell. Does that same rule apply spirits?
You sound like you're getting complicated. Yvonne sold candles. There's a candle. I just don't know why it isn't burned.
She sold candles like this?
Yeah. Didn't have anything else to... She's a kid. She was younger than me. She didn't have any parents. She didn't have anywhere to go. She sold candles. I know sometimes she helped out Father Adrian at the church for some money. Some people down here felt bad for her, but some people down here thought she was a bit, well, annoying. I don't know that much about Yvonne, but I know someone who does, if you're interested. Actually, I know two people that do. Well, I guess three if you count Father Adrian, but he's not down here.
No.
Who are the two that are down here?
Marie, she's probably in the dormitories, and Brigitte. She could be there, or she could be around where Yvonne used to sleep.
Do spirits need catalysts?
Have not met a spirit that required a physical thing to do its work. But I have also not encountered a spirit that could light people on fire.
But is that what it's done if the candle is not burned?
Well, Yvonne was sure burned. I mean, not all burned up. We wouldn't know who it was if they were all burned up. There was still a body left. But they took that away and threw it in a pit in the cemetery. That's just what's left.
And you're sure it was Yvonne?
Yeah. Definitely Yvonne.
What are the ashes?
Some bits that burned up. Clothes, some of the skin, her hair. I don't know. I'm not a doctor. It was Yvonne's body, all right. Weirdest thing, too. She was all burned, except her teeth were in this big smile.
James, Piper, we may need to exhume a body from a body pit.
No, good luck with that.
I think we can talk to the doctor first.
If anybody will be doing the exhuming, it would be him.
Just wait a little bit longer and the bodies will all come bursting out themselves. That's what they say they got the doctor for. He's supposed to be fixing it. Overcrowding. City's too full even if you're dead.
You wanted to talk to the other girls.
Well, who do you want to talk to, Marie or Brigitte? They could both be in the dormitory. I could just take you there. And he looks.
Sure. Let's go
Okay.
there.
And he strides off down another hallway. And what he has been calling the dormitory is an old quarry that seems to be full of poor and homeless people who are happy to have found one place they can take refuge and have a roof over their heads. There are many people sitting, lying on piles of rags and straw, generally just seeming to be trying to rest. And he goes around bending down, looking in people's faces, looking for someone in particular. And eventually, he stops at a woman who is huddled against the wall, turns back to you, and goes, "Well, that's Marie. You talk to her, I'll go look for Brigitte, but I'll come back, because otherwise you'd be lost down here, and Father Adrian would have my head." And he walks off, leaving you staring at a middle-aged woman who is sitting on the ground, clutching her knees, and looking very tired. And she's looking up at you in some confusion.
Hello, Marie.
What do you want? How do you know my name?
Bruno told us.
What's that boy gotten himself into now?
We are investigating what's been going on down here.
I see.
And we heard you were friends with Yvonne?
And she looks as though she was shocked to hear you bring up Yvonne, and almost as though she's going to cry, and says, "Friends, I wouldn't say friends. I lost all my children, and she was the closest thing I had.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Wasn't right what happened to her.
Can you tell us a bit about her?
What do you want to know?"
She sold candles.
Yeah, she did, trying to make money to buy enough to eat.
Where did she get the candles?
To begin with, I don't know. After she'd made a bit of money, she would have bought them from someone else, sold them on for more. That's generally how selling works.
Did she often go out on her own into the tunnels?
The cat? No, you don't sell candles down here. You think anyone around here's got money to buy? She'd sell up above, probably on her own. Sometimes she took, well, Brigitte went with her sometimes.
So there's no reason why she would have been out in the catacombs alone when what happened.
There could have been reason. I mean, she could have been coming back to where she slept from up above. She didn't tell me what she was doing every minute of the day.
Is there anything of note you can tell us about her?
She was an orphan. She tried to make a living here, and she died. She didn't deserve that.
She didn't have any enemies? Didn't rub people the wrong way?
Some people around here, they got annoyed with her, but she's a child with no parents. Of course she's gonna try and spend time with people. I was always happy to talk with her. Other people, not so much. They're tired and they don't want to listen to a child prattling on, but would they burn her alive over that? I should hope not.
I want to try and see if she's holding something back.
Alright, you can see that she's not.
Okay.
And as you're standing there having asked her some questions, Bruno wanders back over, leading a child who looks younger than him, maybe around 6 or 7. And he gestures to her and says, "That's Brigitte."
Thank you for your time, and I'm sorry for your loss.
She just sighs and goes back to looking down.
Baba Yaga had been kneeling and gets back to her feet and turns to the others.
"So, do you have any questions for this kid or what? Because I went and found her for you."
Baba Yaga looks to either James or Piper.
What was Bridget's involvement in this?
Brigitte used to go selling candles with Yvonne sometimes. Well, I thought you wanted to talk to her. Did I waste my time? I can take her back. Brigitte, for her part, is staring at all of you in some confusion.
How well did you know Yvonne?
Yvonne was my friend. I guess I knew her well.
Why would she have been where she was?
In the catacombs? 'Cause we live down here.
But she does not live where she was killed. The deeper you go in, I'm imagining the least use it would be for you. You're using it more as a place to be off the streets. And if you do not sell things down here,
There's entrances down here from all over the city, so she could have been coming down from anywhere and making her way back to where she slept.
but was she?
I don't know.
Neither do I, and I don't like it.
Where she was, it wasn't that far from, well, the entrance isn't right above, but right above where she was, if you were up on the street, and she looks like she's sort of trying to visualize in her head how above correlates to the tunnels below. The church would have been right near above where she was, and she used to sometimes go work for Father Adrian when she couldn't sell enough candles. He'd pay her to clean up the church a little bit. I went and helped her once. I liked selling candles more because it was outside, so sometimes I could pick flowers if there were any, or sometimes there'd be a cat, and there aren't any cats in the church. Just dusting. That wasn't as
What
fun.
do you know of Father Adrian?
He's been here for a long time. Bruno kind of frowns and says, "It's not been that long. She's just... I guess it's long for her. She's a kid." He's also a kid, but he neglects to mention this.
And what is not long?
He's been in that church for about a year, says Bruno. Or maybe a little more than a year. He always tries to, that's what church people say. They've got to see to the poor and destitute or whatever. So sometimes he'll give people food. He gives me money for things sometimes, like showing people around. And yeah, Brigitte says he used to give Yvonne some money for cleaning the church. He's nice enough. Pretty boring.
I cannot shake the thought
What thought?
that he is somehow not telling us the whole truth. But at the same instance, it makes little help or sense for him to be sending us.
Well, I don't know what he'd know that we wouldn't, because he's not even down here. He's up there. So what could he know about what's going on? I mean, yeah, people have told him. But...
Brigitte, do you
Yeah?
know where Yvonne got her candles from?
No. Either does the GM, in case it
Okay.
matters.
I'm thinking there might be magical properties to the candle. Oh, I can just check that. Are there magical properties to the candle?
No, it's a candle.
Okay.
The candle's not burned. Can you see if it's lying?
Yvonne was nice, and Marie told me that she is in heaven now. So how come you're asking about her?
Because she's in heaven now.
Isn't that a good thing?
For her, certainly. The happenstance that led to that, however, is troubling.
Yeah, everyone's scared right now.
Which is why we are here, trying to follow the breadcrumbs.
Well, if you find any breadcrumbs, be careful, because half the people down here'd fight you for them. Bruno chimes in. Got anywhere else you want to go? I know a couple other people you could talk to if you need to. Or I could take you to the Raven's hideout, because it's not night yet, so they're probably not there if you want to have a look around. But like I said, I'm not taking you to the Hall of the Spirits. Doesn't matter how many sous you want to give me.
How many people have gone missing?
Missing? That's kind of hard to say. It's not like we've got a roll call, you know? People come and people go, wander in and out. Half the time they drop
A
dead.
rough estimate.
You want to know how many went missing or how many got burned up?
Well, let us stick with what facts we can ascertain.
Yeah, I can ascertain how many got burned up. I don't know how many are
Let
gone.
us start there, Bruno.
7, maybe. If Yvonne was, then starts sort of counting on his fingers. Yeah, 7, I think.
Were they all close to one another? Were they all...
No? I don't know of anything that tied them together. They didn't all work for the same gang but they weren't the same family or nothing. They're just people.
Can you tell me more about the Hall of the Spirits?
Yeah, I can tell you not to go there.
Why not?
In the middle of the catacombs, well, probably the middle. Here's not like a map, I guess. But sort of in the middle, there's a room. Nobody goes, not anymore. Not even if you're so desperate and everywhere else was full up, no one would, because, well, it didn't used to be like that, see? It used to be fine. But a little while ago, people started saying that when you were in there, it felt like the life was getting sucked out of you, all slow. I mean, I guess that's what it feels like being poor in the city anyway, but quicker than usual, if you take my meaning. And it's always cold. Colder than it usually is underground. And people say they hear things, strange sounds. So, like I said, don't care what Father Adrian says, I'm not taking you there. You're worrying me. Those faces make it look like you want to go there. How about I'll take you to the Raven's hideout, or there's lots of other people I know you can talk to. You want to talk to Claude? You can talk to Claude, or Jerome, or Bernadette. I know lots of people.
Let's check out the Raven's hideout and rule them out as some sort of weird gang initiation thing.
Well, like I said, they shouldn't be there. But if you want to look in case they've got, I don't know,
Fire
matches.
starting equipment.
And he turns to Brigitte and taps her on the head and says, I think they're done, so you can go back. And she nods and scampers away. And Bruno will lead you off down a different passageway.
The Broken Tales RPG is released by the World Anvil Publishing. Starring Ghost as Piper, SPG as James Henry Hook, Shadow as Baby Yaga, Emily is the Storyteller. Sounds and music by Syrinscape.com and Epidemicsound. You can find us at critfail.com.